I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Uh-oh. Do you feel crazy a little bit sometimes when we're doing this? We don't hear the music, but only in our heads.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to Station 19 After Show. And I am Linda Antwi. And, of course, I'm here with the lovely Tsahai. Hello.
Hi, Linda.
So what were your overall thoughts of this episode?
You know, it went in a different direction. For some reason, I thought it was going to focus on the fact that Andy was back a little bit more, but this was jam-packed with like reveals, lies, new secrets, daddy issues. It was a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be so jam-packed. I was actually emotionally preparing myself for Andy's return, and it wasn't any of that. It was actually heavier between the mom stuff, the abuse stuff, the denial stuff, the relationship stuff. It was just a whole lot, and I was like, wow. It felt like longer than an hour. You know what I mean? Like it felt like way longer. But we'll just jump into it. We open up with the calendar. They have to sell 3,000 calendars at $25 a pop. And they're all looking at their months and a little bit kind of insecure about being December, being October. And I thought the one with Jack as the farmer was hilarious. And then I just thought it was a great idea. So we see Andy walk back in. She sees the calendar and the mood changes a little bit, right? A little bit more heavy, less laughter. But she's really touched by the fact that they've done this for her dad. And she's like, oh, obviously I'm going to need a case. And in the same time, we also see Ben come in and Sullivan is there. And right away, he's like, if you have a problem with me, you're going to need me to get my coffee first. What did you think of the opening scene?
Ben had me dying in this episode because he was like McGruff, the crime cop. Like he was going to get down to the bottom of this case no matter what. He was not letting up on Sullivan at all. He was on him like white on rice.
Yeah, he was. When he said that line to Miranda where he's like, I'm right, but I'm also righteous, and like scurried out of the room, I was like, oh, wow, Ben, this is a whole side of you that I have not seen before.
Yeah, he was determined, but you know, his heart was in the right place, but it turned out different than we all expected.
Yeah. We see Maya and Dr. DeLuca. They're hot and heavy, making out in the office. And then Emmet interrupts them. And lo and behold, we meet Maya's mom for the first time. No warning. She's like, I'm here to see my captain daughter at her firehouse. And like, who are you? Are you one of my daughter's fire women? To Dr. DeLuca. And she's like, no, I don't work here. And then she's like, oh, are you her doctor? She's like, well, I am a doctor. So I thought that was the first instance where does Maya's mom not know that she's bisexual, right? Because it was like a weird thing, put Dr. DeLuca in a weird thing, and Andy was just staring at her mom in shock, and more shock like, why are you here, mom, and a lot of anger. But I thought, ooh, there's an underlying issue that we haven't seen before and that Maya has not addressed. Did you agree?
Yeah, I think the mom threw me off at first because I was like, she looked pretty young for a mom. It was like her gray hair was the thing that really made her look older. But her relationship to Maya was really surprising. But knowing that Maya is struggling with the fact that her father's uh, stern ways kind of made her the woman who she is, I wonder if she doesn't respect her mom because her mom took that abuse for all those years.
Yeah, agreed. So she's basically kind of hostile towards her mom. And she's like, I don't have time for this. We're doing a spaghetti fundraiser for Pruitt. Like, why did you come here? You came with her badmouth dad. Like, I don't want to hear about it. And she's like, well, no, I want to apologize for the abuse. And Maya's like, what abuse? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, you're being a drama queen, she says Maya says drama much. And when the mom said that she was literally in crisis mode, I was like, Maya, how are you not hearing what she's saying? Like, you're not hearing what she's saying because it's going to shatter who you think you are as a person because of the result of how your dad treated you, right? So instead of being able to empathize with her mom and say, hey, listen, her mom looked broken when she came in, like looked scared and broken like a battered woman would. And abuse comes in many shapes, ways, and forms. That I was surprised that Maya couldn't see past it.
Yeah, when she said he never hit us, you could tell that to her, abuse looks like one thing. But it was really empowering to see that the mom was one, getting help, two, made a change no matter how long she'd been in that relationship, and three, was able to speak up and explain to Maya, hey, you may not see but this, but for me, this is how I felt. And so that shows that she's definitely grown a lot, which was really empowering to see.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I thought it was telling how much she must have grown, where she wasn't reacting to Maya's hostility. And even though Maya didn't want her there, she continued to stay there because she needed to tell her story and to explain to Maya, this is what happened, whether you see it or not. So I just thought that that was really like a powerful background to the hostility that Maya was giving her. And then we see Miller. So we see Dean helping this beautiful girl with the earring stuck in the back of her head, and she's flirting with him, but he is not seeing it. He helps her. And then she sees the calendar, buys the calendar, slips the number to him, and then good old Vic comes out and basically is like joking around, like, you need to get back on the horse, you need to start dating. We find out the background where he hasn't dated, had sex, or anything since he got this baby. But then he jabs at Vic, where he says that he doesn't move on at the speed of lightning either. And I thought it's interesting because he says he lashes out when he is stressed and doesn't know what's going on. But I also think he has to consider too, he has a newborn and he's a new father. So that's going to change the dynamics of how he gets down, you know?
Yeah, I think it was interesting to see him kind of lash out like a spoiled brat in that way, because he can't judge Vic for her decisions. Like, Vic didn't have the same situation as he did where someone left him. You know, one, her Ripley died. That wasn't by choice. With Dean, his baby mama left because she wanted to. So the fact that Vic and he have different ways of kind of coping with things, it was interesting to see that he was so judgmental, because we don't normally see Dean judgmental in that
Right.
way. You could tell that's how you know he likes her, because he's real picky about what she's doing outside of him.
That, and then I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit when he talked to her about the calendar, and he's like, "Why am I naked?" And then you're in this like tight spandex thing. I was like, "Excuse me, what did you just say?"
He
It
was
was,
like spandex.
yeah, it was a little comment, but I was like, "That's a comment you say to someone you're interested in."
Or also, it kind of reminded me of like a controlling boyfriend in a way, like controlling what you're wearing. Like, why
Mm.
is your outfit so tight? I mean, Vic has a nice body. She could have been in a full on bikini, but she was in her leotard with her leggings, which I thought was super funny and cute.
Yeah, you're right. We see Andy and Jack. And Jack is like, "Where you been? Like, you have not come home in forever. Like, where have you been?" And she's like, "Oh, it's complicated." And he's like, "Well, how is it complicated? It's just an address." And then he's like, "Is this about us? Is it about our history?" Like, he gets all into that. And we find out later why he's been thinking that way. But in this moment, he's just thinking, "Hey, you're trying to avoid me. And why?" And she says, "No, it's Sullivan. I'm sleeping there because we got married." And just like that, she drops the bomb.
Girl, bombs were being dropped all over the place with this marriage reveal. Yeah, really. It was sweet to see how Jack was so concerned about like where she was and her well being. He didn't care about their past. He just wanted to make sure she was okay, and he called her out about that marriage, girl.
He really did, and we'll get to that too. So they're going to the first emergency, and she says it's crazy that she's married, and he says, "No, crazy is two exes moving in together. What you have done is disturbing," he says. And then he tells her like she's grieving. She basically should just get this annulled. Do you realize you married your boss? Like, all of it is wrong. And she's like, "No, I don't regret it because my dad got to walk me down the aisle. And that's a memory that I'm going to always have. And he's just not seeing it. He's like, no, you're grieving and you did this out of like panic because you're replacing your dad with Sullivan, and that's not okay.
Yeah, here we have a second person who is obviously doing some therapy as well and having their own reveal. So they're like finding out truths about themselves and able to see truths in other people, similar to Maya's mom.
Yeah. So we get to the first emergency, and the Station 19 attached to the search and rescue, knowing that there's some structural damage to the building and it's a bowling alley. And we first meet Walter, who's stuck under the pin gear. Older guy, had this company for 50 years plus. He talks about his relationship with Dean, about his relationship with his son, and how he wasn't always a good dad, but he did his best, and therefore the dad ended up not being a good dad to his child and chose drugs and alcohol and all of that over his child. And you knew in that moment that he was dying. Like, I knew in that moment that he was not going to make it. And so when he talked to Dean about, I've lived my best life, I've done the best I can, these children, they're just starting their lives, go and save them. And Dean's like, no, I don't roll like that. I just thought it was a great moment because Dean being a new dad and then getting this advice about being a dad from someone who's about to lose their life and you're just starting your life with your child. I just thought that was an amazing, powerful moment.
Yeah, it was crazy because we don't have many deaths every week. Like usually something happens and the person is rescued. So I was like, no, I didn't want this guy to die because his granddaughter was there. It's a bowling alley. Like kids were having their party there. So it was so sad to see like the way he went, especially like Dean was on his way to get more help. And then we hear that crash. And I'm like, oh, it's so sad.
Yeah, you're right. They usually do get rescued. They're really just slapping us with the death this season, I'm telling you. Woo! We also see in the emergency Emmet, and Emmet freezes and he has a panic attack. He says he can't go back in. So he's assigned to triage. And I thought, oh my God, he's coming undone and he's not going to be able to be a firefighter. And guess what? So I have a prediction. I don't know if I'll save it for like next time. I'll just save it for right now. I'll say it right now so I don't forget. But I think that, the quid pro quo that Sullivan has with Emmett's dad
Mm-hmm.
is gonna, and then how Sullivan now owes him one. I think
Mm.
it's gonna have to do with Emmet and Emmet getting like reprimanded for not doing his job and freezing and like maybe getting kicked out of the firehouse or whatever. And then Sullivan's gonna have to save his career because it's the quid pro quo. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah, I just thought like we saw Emmett last time come out of the closet, so I thought he was just like living his truth. Like, I don't want to do this job anymore. I am done. This is not for me, and it just came out that way. But Maya was not having it, and she was very annoyed with him. But I was really surprised. I was like, wow, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that last week, yeah, him coming out was one thing, but he hasn't quit his job, so he's still there. So I don't know if he's living his best life, but this week will be telling, and to see what happens moving forward for him being like a coward in this moment was a big deal, especially because there were children and stuff involved. So we see all the kids hiding under the table. We see that Andy and Jack get trapped in with them. We see how great Andy is with the children and how she really nurtures them and protects them. And then that's juxtaposed to Jack, who's freaking out, having his own mini panic attack because he's stuck in there and he wants to get away. And I think he's flashing back to the apartment building fire where he was trapped and all of that stuff happened to him. And we hear Andy say that she thinks that he does have PTSD still, but we do find out that he's dealing with it and he's seeing Diane and he's working through his issues plus some other issues. So there was a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I was surprised that that's how that scene went. I thought we were going to focus more on the kids and maybe something was going to happen with one of the kids or,
Mm-hmm.
most of the kids out and one was going to be left behind. But to see Jack, like you said, become undone like that was very surprising for me, especially since he was just giving Andy advice about what to do with her life, and suddenly he's like falling apart. So
Yeah,
it shows you how quickly something can trigger you and switch up your emotions.
absolutely, absolutely. What's great about this is that we know that through the emergency, they're able to rescue all the children. Um, and then we see that Jack is like, you know what, go. And Andy's like, no, we came together, we leave together. And then on the outside, we see how Maya is so frazzled by her mom showing up. So she's ultra determined and she's ultra focused and a little bit mean, like angry, I'll say, because she's snapping at everyone. And then when she has to rescue, well, she doesn't have to rescue, but she's helping get Jack and Andy out. And she's like breaking down the wall. You could see that she's letting out all her frustrations on that wall, and all that anger. So they get out, fire's contained, and we see that, okay, I think there's going to be more to dig into with the Maya situation and how she's dealing with denial, because she's in denial, in my opinion, right now.
Totally. I think Maya's still reeling from the death of Pruitt and having to kind of fight for her job. She's on this call with kids. That's stressful. And now her mom is there. She didn't think she was going to have to be dealing with her childhood issues about her dad. So it totally caught her off guard. And,
Mm-hmm.
your daily life, you don't really think that you're not really thinking about your past that way. So I think similar to Jack, where it was triggered, Maya's mom kind of triggered her and brought up
Yes.
stuff.
Yes, absolutely agree with you. We see Jack going back after this whole emergency with Andy. And Andy's saying, I'm going to turn you in to the captain because you're PTSD. And he's like, yeah, but I'm getting help from Diane. And Andy, I thought it was interesting because she kind of made it about her. She's like, well, what do you talk about with Diane? Are you talking about me? And I'm like, first of all, he doesn't have to tell you nothing. That's his therapy session. Calm down, Andy. It's not all about you, but you're grieving. So I guess it's okay because you're not in your right mind right now. But he does tell her, he says, yeah, it's kind of about you. It's about women who can't love me back. It's about sex. It's about the love stuff, all of that. So when he said, yeah, I'll mention the PTSD to Diane, I was like, you know what? Yay, Jack. Good on you for working on your mental health.
Yeah, Andy is so self-centered at times. I was like, girl, his therapy is not about you. Maybe a little bit, but yeah, like he's trying to work on himself. And you have caused some issues, but it's not all about you. But again, I think that's her way of coping, right? Everything becomes about her. That's how she protects herself and kind of works on healing and makes everything about herself. But it was so funny. She hasn't been at work in how long, and here she goes right back into the same old Andy.
Same, same thoughts. But what she does do is say she finally admits that she's a mess. And then I thought Jack's response to her was interesting because she's like, yeah, maybe I should go talk to someone. And Jack's like, yeah, you should talk to your husband. I was
Ouch.
like, that's a mic drop right there.
I was like, ooh, he was like, go talk to your husband. I was
Seriously. And then we see Captain Ben, and not captain in the sense of fire chief captain, but I'll say like Detective Ben. So Ben pulls up on Sullivan in his office, and he wants him to pee in a cup. He's calling Robert by his first name. He is not messing around. And Sullivan's like, you're way beyond the line. You're crossing the line. And he says, Robert again. He's like, Robert, I'm not crossing any line. You're the one that has crossed lines here. He asked him, why did you become a firefighter? And you stole drugs from PRT, which is a felony. You made me falsify documents, which is a felony. You were commander of multiple houses, and you went out high, which is criminal at the very least. He was like going off. I was like, oh, go ahead, Ben. And then he's like, what did he say? You put everyone's life on the line, he says, And he just went off. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he totally did, and he really made Sullivan question a lot about himself. It was interesting to see them interact in that way, but the whole peeing in the cup and not even letting Sullivan go to the bathroom, that had me dead.
Same. He's like, yeah, you're not going anywhere. I need to witness this. But what was interesting to me is how he talked about when he said, why did you become a firefighter? And Sullivan said, to save people's lives in like a life or death situation. And he's like, yeah, but you're putting people's lives in jeopardy by being a drug addict at work, which was an interesting point. And then when he says, excuse me on my notes, more notes here. When he says, what kind of man did your life make you? I thought, wow, that was powerful too. You need to do the right thing, because if you don't, I'll do it for you. And you need to turn yourself in, and you need to report yourself, all of this stuff. So he was really on the righteous path. And he was, like you said, really making Sullivan take a look at who the type of person that he is. And I actually think at the end of it, he ended up helping Sullivan so much because he doesn't have to live with all the secrecy that he had, including marrying his subordinate in the same firehouse. He was able to let that all off, and that has to be a relief for him.
Yeah, you could see at the end that he was totally relieved, and it helped Andy too in a way because they didn't have to keep that secret anymore together. So that was really interesting. But all the things that he was like, first you got to talk about the addiction and the overdose and the marriage. I was like, Lord, like Sullivan, you've been real messy these days.
Right. And then also involving the probie, and the probie being your boss's kid. All, like, he laid it all out there. And when he talked about there's three type of rule followers, there's ones that follow the rules, break the rules to save others, and break the rules to save themselves. And you're the type that breaks the rules to save yourself. I was like, go ahead. I'm just going to listen to you preach for the next 20 minutes, because that's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, I really liked how he broke down the three types of people and who follows the rules and those who don't. Also, stay tuned for our news and gossip segment because we have some details about how Andy and Sullivan are dealing with the quarantine. So stay tuned.
I love it. Love that. Then I'm going to go back to Sullivan and Ben, because there's an important part a little bit later on, but I want to get to the flashback first because that sets up the rest of the episode. So we see Ben in a flashback with Pruitt at a bar, and they miss the old bar and they want the bar to be back. And Ben asks the same question to Pruitt: when did you know you wanted to be a firefighter? And Pruitt's like, since I was 7 years old. And they talked about being a great firefighter versus a good firefighter, which was exactly what Ben was dealing with. So a good firefighter is also a team player, because it's always about the team and making sure your team is safe. A great firefighter is thinking about themselves and wanting to be great, right? And we see that with Sullivan a little bit, and we also see it with, why can't I think of his name, the chief's name, Emmet's dad?
Oh, Dixon.
Yeah, we see that a lot with Dixon, right? And that's what Dixon is about. So he talks about Ryan and feeling sorry about Ryan, but what he also talks about is not, the goal for him is not being numb and not becoming numb in the situations. And Ben is like, yeah, I'm finding myself that way too. Like, I do become numb. Like, what do you do about it? And Pruitt talks about this one story where it was the one and only time that he became numb, when there was a DUI. The kid got pulled over and blew a 0.12, and earlier in the night, but was released. And then later in the night, he ended up killing a family of 5. Spent only a night in jail because he was the mayor's son. And why? Because the cop wanted the quid pro quo, right? He wanted to be able to say that the mayor owes him a favor. We fast forward now, right? So we now know that Ben has come clean to Dixon, and Dixon didn't. I wasn't expecting his response. Dixon threw it on the run. He's like, well, if no one knows, it didn't happen. And but if you report, then you're going to lose your job. Ben's going to lose your job. The PRT team is going to be gone. Oh, and we'll throw Miranda under the bus because it's in conjunction with that's her hospital over there. Like he was playing politics, which I thought, wow, he can flip it like this. That's disgusting because clearly it's about you and your power, and he doesn't want to have a scandal on his first year of being the boss of everyone. I thought it was disgusting. But Ben had his light bulb moment, realizing that the cop who cashed in the favor was Chief Dixon.
That reveal to me blew my mind, because did you think it was someone else? Like when Pruitt told the story, I was like, who could it be? At first, I was like, who is the cop? There's no cops. Ryan's dead. So I thought it was someone who was going to currently be a cop. But girl, it was Dixon's old shady self. Like, we already hated him, and now we hate him more.
Facts. And I forgot that he was a cop. I remember now, after they gave us the reveal, that they told us he came from policing to firefighting, but was more political. But man, that dude is shady. And then to top it all off, he flipped it again and said, Sullivan, you owe me one, and I won't forget this. And that's why I said earlier, the one that is going to be owed is going to be for Emmet. Somehow, Emmet is a stepping stone for power for Dixon, and Sullivan's going to be stuck in the middle of that, for sure, because he wants his quid pro quo. He wants the favor, and I am sick of him already, Dixon.
Yeah. Do you think because he comes from the cop world and is not like a firefighter who came up through the ranks like everybody else, do you think that's what makes him so uneasy about his job and all the decisions he makes? That's why he's always like on edge about like impressing his bosses, because he the way he got in.
Yeah, and I think that he's more of a law and order guy and a politics guy. He cares about climbing the ladder and playing the politics and law and order of it, instead of the other side, which is the firefighting side, where you're about saving lives.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So then from that, we have, let me go to here. We have the spaghetti thing, and the spaghetti fundraiser again for Pruitt. So we had a lot of things going on. We had the calendar raising money for Pruitt. We also had this spaghetti fundraiser. Plus, we saw Miranda come by, and she had a whole thing from the hospital, donations for Pruitt's funeral. We find out finally that Dixon approves the funeral of Pruitt, which I thought was a good thing in the midst of it all. But he only did it because he's like, I'm busy. Like, don't talk to me about this again. They kind of wore him down, not because he had a great heart. But we're going to have a great funeral for Pruitt at the end of the day, which I think is important and great. And at the same time, we see at this spaghetti fundraiser, Sullivan and Andy. And Sullivan goes over to Andy. His weight is unlifted, or lifted, I should say. And now he just wants to tell the world that he loves this woman and that it's his wife. So he tells Andy everything that happened. Everything's out in the open, and he wants to get out in the open. So he turns around, makes an announcement. Hey, we're going to have this wonderful funeral for Pruitt. And also, by the way, Andy and I are married, and so this is kind of like our wedding reception. So the faces of all the firefighters was priceless to me. Like, I felt they should have done that in slow motion, because you could just see all of their faces they were shook, girl. They were shook.
They were also not impressed. Like, Vic was like, oh, Jack was over there like, and everyone was like, had a slow clap, like, okay, what should we be doing with this information? No one was visibly excited, which must suck when you tell people you're married. Also, don't nobody want no janky spaghetti reception for their wedding. Like, Sullivan, I'm gonna need you to have a plan B, because you got married in City Hall. Cool. Let's make the reception a little bit more elegant or something. Come on now.
With the paper plates. That's hilarious. What I did think was interesting, Tsahai, is did you see Andy's face? Like, she was nervous. She actually did not want to tell them. And I think that Jack had gotten to her a little bit because when she said, maybe it is crazy that I married him and maybe it was a mistake, and she started doubting herself, but she said, I do know that I love him, but maybe it was a mistake. And then so when he was about to announce, you could see her face like she didn't want to do it. And then when he announced, who was she looking at? Not him. She was looking at Jack and Jack's reaction. I was like, oh, this is about to get really messy.
Yeah, I think it speaks to how sometimes with men they hold back in the beginning, but when they're all in, they are all in. Like he is telling the world about her. He loves her. He wants everyone to know. And remember, this was the guy who was like, denying their love for so long when she was in, deep in it. So it's interesting to see how the tables have turned and how they both feel differently now.
And what do you think about her looking over to Jack while he was announcing? What were your thoughts about that?
He is skeptical now. She now that she's out of the grief, that she was in before. She's able to think a little bit more clearly, and maybe Andy's never alone, so it's normal for her to have someone there. But at this time in her life, I think she's like, okay, was this the right move for me to make? And she wasn't thinking like this when she was grieving. She was focusing on the grieving. Now she's focusing on this marriage. And honestly, I kind of hope it works out. I mean, they went ahead and did it. Pruitt gave his blessing. I hope it works out.
We'll see. We'll see. It's Shondaland, so there's going to be some bumps in that road. I did want to end with Maya and her being triggered and the dad rage and the moods, her denying the abuse and telling her mom that her mom needs therapy, but that she's not going to go to therapy with her. And then how Dr. DeLuca tried to explain how, it's not normal to live on eggshells. And she gave the example of her dad and her dad's mental health issues. But Maya was like, no, I'm not in denial. I'm pissed. I'm a gold medalist. I'm the youngest fire captain, and I'm the only female fire captain. And so she bases her whole self-worth on how she was raised and what her dad did to her. So instead of her, for example, when she had to walk 20 plus miles home because she didn't beat her own record, she came in first, but she didn't beat her own record. They were like, you see how that's abuse, because that's abuse.
Yeah, that was surprising for Maya to like open up like that. I thought she was going to continue to just shut down, and to see her finally open up to Karina, which I think is really a good relationship for her to have someone like Karina who's dealt with a parent that's had some issues, and Karina always comes from a very caring and open place. I think they're perfect for each other.
I agree. Let's get into some. What do you want to do? News and gossip, or do you want to do shout outs from the live chat?
I'll do shout outs from last week. If
Okay.
That's cool. Okay.
Cool.
So thank you guys for watching and commenting on our last episode. We have Blue Shadow, Dama Plate, Gemini 3, of course. Hey girl, Station 19 fan, Joshuana Washington, Butterfly Girl, Angela Williams, Nicole O'Brien, Fandom Domination, and Tia Diaz. So you guys are in the comments. We love it. You keep us on point, and we appreciate you.
I love that. And let's also get into some news and gossip.
Yes. So Sullivan, aka Boris Kojo, did a takeover of the Station 19 Instagram this week. And he did a live with Miss Andy, Miss Jana Lee Ortiz. And they answered one of your questions, Linda, that you asked, like, how are you doing in quarantine? And Jana said that quarantine has been very peaceful for her and quiet, and it involves meditation, working out, cooking, and FaceTiming with friends to keep connected. She starts her day with 5 minutes of meditation to kind of like lay the groundwork for her day. So I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Boris said that he and his family have dinners together every night. They also play games together. They do puzzles together. They bike ride together. They work out together. He's also doing a lot of reading and writing and getting his thoughts out. he says the benefit of the quarantine for him has been that it's given him time to work, you know, on himself, and all of us have been given the time to work on ourselves, which we never get time to do. So you guys can watch the full Instagram live with Jaina and Boris on the Station 19 Instagram account.
I love that.
Did you know that their couple name was Sorera? Like Sullivan and Herrera, hashtag Sorera. Like I thought, I did not know that either until it was all in the comments. So yes, girl, that's their ship name.
Tell me it again, Sorera?
Like Sullivan and Herrera together make Sorera.
Sorera. I can't roll my R, so that's going to be really tough for me.
But it was cute. Also, one more thing. So, you know, the calendar that we've been seeing, they're actually giving one calendar away to a lucky fan. When he did his live, Boris posted a picture of he and Ben, and they had to write a caption. So on Monday, they're selecting the winner. So it'd be interesting to see who actually wins one.
I love that. And that is the perfect segue to my Fire Facts section. I'm not going to do facts because I'm going to stick on the calendar theme because that was really the theme of the show. And do you know that firefighter calendars are actually still a thing? And they're really, really popular. So I pulled up 3 photos of a firefighter calendar that I thought was crazy. So the first one you guys are going to see on your screen, it's Fire Rescue Dogs 2020. And it's 3 hotties, 2 of them all tatted up, but they're all holding little puppies, shirtless. So that's the first one, and it's called Lifeline Puppy Rescue, Firefighter Calendar, benefiting, the Lifeline Puppy Rescue. The next one picture you see is 2 hotties, 2 girls, Mirabai and Tracy. And they're in their little sexy outfits, and they have puppies under their arms as well, and they have like a fire in the back. And then the third one, this guy looks a little bit like Travis. His name is Ryan. He's from South Metro, and all I can say is he's got the hat on and the puppy in his hands, and that's all you need to know. So guys, make sure you're looking at that. But yeah, the calendars are still a real thing.
I love that. Speaking of firefighters, also, I found a video. You know how people are doing that "Don't Rush" challenge?
Yeah.
Found one of all these like chocolate firefighters. I think in like Jackson, Mississippi, or somewhere. I'm gonna put it in the comments for everyone to see because it is cute. They even put their chief in it at the end.
I love that. I love that. Definitely put it in the comments because I would love to see it. Guys, we love you. Another week, another jam-packed episode. Make sure you're liking and subscribing and commenting. Tsahai and I love interacting with you guys every week. If you have any news and gossip that you have that you want to share with me, share with Tsahai, please do send that out to us. And until next week, same time, same place, we'll see you here. You can find me all across social media at Linda Is So Girly. And Tsahai?
You can find me at Say Hi Tsahai.
Till next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.